This episode of Playing on a Budget is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the #1 source of games and gaming accessories, and by GatheringMagic.com, the #1 source of Magic the Gathering news and articles. Hi there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com here with another week of Playing on a Budget. This week we are going to go into the modern format as we are nearing close to rotation time, and thought I'd give you a modern brew that I've been working on. This is going to be Necromancer's Stockpile, one of my favorite cards out of M15. So before we go over the deck list, let's go over the prices and show you how this makes a budget. We're actually going to keep this guy into $100. With Modern, we usually have around $150 or $200 budget, but I'm going to pull it up here. We have it $104.29. The Bloodghast are going to cost you $8.50. The Gravecrawler is going to cost you $5.49. Haakon at $3.50. Inquisition of Kozilek at $8. Lightning Zombie at $2, and Necromancer Stockpile at 50 cents. That's all the rares and cards that are worth over $1 in the entire deck. And these prices are brought to you by our sponsors, CoolStuffInc.com. So if you're a fan of the channel, if you're a fan of the series, please go check them out and support them. Anyway, let's get back to the deck list. This is, again, going to be utilizing around the Necromancer Stockpile, which says, discard a creature card, draw a card. If the discarded card was a zombie card, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield tapped. So this is the card we're going to try to abuse. In Modern, it's got some great targets, with the first one being Gravecrawler. Gravecrawler, you can cast from your graveyard as long as you have a zombie. You're going to be pitching stuff to Necromancer Stockpile to create zombies. So if you pitch this guy, you get a 2/2 zombie and you can cast it back. And then again, this deck is going to be good against the attrition war decks like Jund and UWR midrange or control. This deck is going to be very weak against combo, as I'm probably not dedicated enough space to actually beating out combo. So another good combination with the Necromancer Stockpile is going to be Bloodghast. Every time we play a land, we can chuck this guy back into play. So we're just going to get a card out of Necromancer Stockpile because this is only a Vampire Spirit. And then we will get back the 2/1 with it whenever we play Swamp. So it's going to be pretty good value nonetheless, I think. And I think it's worth playing. Now, there's a few other cards I'm going to try to utilize with the Unearth ability, which is Viscera Dragger, which has cycling. You can cycle it into the graveyard for a card, or pitch it to Necromancer Stockpile, and then you can Unearth it for at least a 3/3. For 2 mana, the Unearth is pretty good. You can get in there for a Lightning Bolt if your opponent is tapped out. Again, this deck just tries to utilize as much value. It's a value-driven deck, so you're gonna be able to cycle and Earth and get cards out of Stockpile. And the other card I should mention is going to be the Zombie Infestation. You discard 2 cards, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token to play. Especially everything on our deck is going to get value out of the graveyard, so this card is very good. And it actually is our enabler for our Madness card, our Dark Withering, which is destroy target non-black creature. This is the only real card that we have against like Splinter Twin. I'm going to test it out. Doomblade just might be better, but Madness is really cool because you can pay it if you have to discard it. You just pay its Madness cost, and you still get to get the ability out of discarding a card through Zombie Infestation, or in our sideboard we have cards like Smallpox, which will force us to discard a card. So anyway, let's get back to the 2 mana casting cost. We've got some other Unearthed cards. Rotting Rats enters the battlefield. Each player discards a card. We're going to be getting value again out of our graveyard, so this is going to force our opponents to get rid of some cards out of their hand. Against combo, if you just wheedle away their hand, they're not as good. There's some decks in Modern that really need to utilize the 7-card hand, and if you make them discard a few cards here and there, then they're definitely not as good. It's another way we can enable our Dark Withering and whatnot. Then we have Nameless Inversion. This is going to be paired with Haakon, Stromgald, Scourge. We might actually want more Nameless Inversions. This is something I'm going to mess around with, as we have 3 Haakons in here. And this guy says you can only cast him. You may cast Haakon Scourge from your graveyard, but not from anywhere else. So if it's in your hand, you cannot cast it. And as long as it's on the battlefield, you can cast night cards from your graveyard. Unfortunately, we don't have any night cards that this pairs with. I could focus more on Haakon than I could on Necromancer Stockpile and build more of a night-based deck. I know that I've seen some decks with Haakon in the past that utilize a lot of night cards in the graveyard, but there's a cool combination with Nameless Inversion. This is a night card, and you can cast it from your graveyard. So if you have Haakon out, you can actually use this Nameless Inversion just to machine gun stuff down. So very cool combination. Again, this guy likes to be in the graveyard. Legendary doesn't really affect the graveyard, so you can have as many of these in the graveyard as you want. I guess we would maybe want to sack outlet this deck. Again, it's something that I should look into. We can't have Unearth Exiles after they die, so anything that dies, probably any trigger that says die probably wouldn't be the greatest in this deck. So back to more cards here. Again, Dregscape Zombie. This is something I'm just testing out because it's got a very, very cheap Unearth. But I might just want to go for a more powerful Unearth. I know I did come across a few other, there was like a 5/5 Unearth Demon for 4 mana that I thought was pretty cool, because a 5/5 flying Unearth, even if a card said 4 mana haste, 5/5 flying, that'd be pretty good. And maybe I'll pull that guy up here. I'll show you all the Unearth cards that we can actually utilize in the format that... Let's see here. How to reset all filters here. So we're going to go to Unearth. And it's going to pop up here. There's a ton if we get into, like, the... If we get into... Ooh, that's a juicy one. Cedrus. Each creature in your graveyard has an Earth. Unfortunately, everything basically has an Earth as it is. Plus, we'd only be wanting to Earth this for 3. We'd never be hardcasting this. But the card I'm talking about... There is a zombie with or a demon with this Extractor Demon. Unearth for 3, 5/5 flying. Whenever another creature leaves the battlefield, you may have target player put the top 2 cards of his or library into his graveyard. So this card actually might be pretty decent in the deck, as we can self-mill our own library to put more Gravecrawlers, more Haakons, more unearthing things in the graveyard, and then we can unearth them. But again, this is only going to affect itself when it unearths, or anything else that's in the battlefield either dies or unearths while it's in play. So I don't know. Maybe we should test this guy out to see how well he does. I'm gonna go ahead and throw one, possibly in the sideboard, and we'll get rid of something here. I'll go grab a copy of this guy, and we'll call it good. I just want to try it out to see how well it works. Again, Grave Scrabbler is kind of cool. I did want to see a few more Madness cards. There wasn't many Madness cards. This Grave Scrabbler says Madness for 2, so when you discard it, you can actually cast it for 2. When it enters the battlefield, if its Madness cost was paid, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to its owner's hand. So this is very powerful with the Zombie Infestation. You can discard Grave Scrabbler and something else, and then you can actually pay its Madness cost and actually target a card in your graveyard, a creature card in your graveyard, and bring it back to your hand. If it's like a Viscera Dragger, that's something you can cycle again. If it's anything else, you can just pitch it again to the Necromancer Stockpile or the Zombie Infestation. So I think we've covered pretty much the bases here. Onto the sideboard, I did include some Inquisitions, because these could easily be Thoughtseizes if you have Thoughtseize, and this will help us get into any sort of combo deck. Same thing with Smallpox, if we can make them sacrifice a creature, a land, and lose a life. That doesn't hurt us too much, because this deck can run off very, very low lands. Withered Wretch is a nice zombie card that can actually kill graveyards. I think it's very pertinent in the format. I'm trying a one of Big Game Hunter, but I off the top of my head, I don't really know what deck this would actually be good against, because there's very few things with power 4 or greater in the format. It just does have madness of 1. Again, I think I'm going to take this one out. This will be our card that we are going to replace with the Extractor Demon. But I just wanted to show you that there is the option with the big game, if there happened to be a deck that utilizes larger creatures. We have 2 Lifebane Zombies in the sideboard. I think they're pretty good. Gorgon Recluse is the other Madness guy that seemed decent. So again, you can pitch this as Zombie Infestation and pay its Madness cost and get a 2/4 dude that whenever it blocks or becomes blocked, you destroy that creature in a combat. So you can actually use this as removal. Cool things about this is instant speed. Madness can be used as instant speed with Zombie Infestation. I believe Necromancer Stockpile, does it say only as a sorcery? No, you can use this at any time as well, but that's 4 mana. It becomes like 4 mana removal with the Gorgon Recluse. I do think that we might end up wanting more of these in the main board, as it does have a lot of synergy. So, and then there's all sorts of hate cards you could use in here, like Leyline of the Void. Black has just Bajuko Bog instead of Swamps. exiles target player's graveyard. I decided not to include anything, just keep it kind of simple. I'm thinking Mutavault wouldn't be too bad in here, or any other land that you can animate to get in there for that last bit of damage. But we're going to go ahead here, grab this last copy of Extractor Demon, and see if this deck can actually handle the modern gauntlet. And if not, I think it'll be a nice little fun deck, a nice creative deck that you can play with your buddies in a not-so-serious way. Well, again, it should do well against Jund. It should do well against any sort of, again, the attrition battles with, like, Jund or UWR. But unfortunately, Modern right now is very combo-esque. There's tons of combos that ignore you completely, and I don't think we have quite enough disruption between just the Rotting Rats, Inquisitions, and Smallpox, but we'll definitely go that route if we do see a combo deck. Anyway, this has been Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching.